welcome. We're going to have, as soon as it kind of slows down, I'll get started. For those of you who don't know, this is the DVU Communication Access Connect, and I'm Darlene Hansen, co-director with Tim here. He'll introduce himself in a second. The empowerment team, and we do these once a month. And Ed's putting in the chat all kinds of instructions about turning on the English or Spanish, whichever you need, and all the other things she wants you to know. So check out your chat. Also keep your chat open because we're talking within the chat most of the time. Tim, you want to say something?
Hey all, my name is Tim and this is our 5th Communication Access Connect this year, and we are almost at the halfway point. And it's almost final weeks for those of us who are still in school. William.
Go for it, William.
My name is William Del Rosario, and I am a student intern with DVU. I am a 23-year-old Hispanic Filipino male with black hair, brown eyes, wear glasses, and my pronouns are he and him. I have autism, apraxia, am a multimodal communicator, and use AAC. Supporting me today is my mom, Michelle. Thank you for making the time to be here.
Great. And I don't think we don't have Nina on yet today, huh? Sometimes we have Nina. Okay, then we'll move on. Nina's on our team as well. Well, today we're kind of using this conversation to spring into our self-advocate Speakers Bureau training. And so Tim has met this woman before, and I got to meet her through Tim, and I'm really excited. She's going to tell you a little bit about what she does and what she thinks, and just awesome stuff. So we're letting Jennifer kick off our first ideas about the Speakers Bureau. This isn't the Speakers Bureau, but it's about it. And then also just to let you know that Jennifer will be our guest speaker at the final training of the Speakers Bureau too. So you're going to get a double whammy of Jennifer. So I'm going to introduce you to, unless Tim, did you have an introduction for Jennifer? Prepared? Okay. I'm going to let Jennifer tell you she works for the city of Long Beach in the ADA. She's an ADA coordinator, I believe is the exact title. And anyways, share your story, Jennifer. Let's have you go for it.
Thank you so much, Darlene. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Today, I'm going to briefly talk about public speaking and advocacy. My name is Jennifer Kumiyama. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the citywide accessibility coordinator for the city of Long Beach. I have a disability called arthrogryposis, which means that I have limited movement in my arms and my legs, and I use a motorized wheelchair for 100% of my mobility needs. I have long dark hair, tan skin, and I am Asian Pacific Islander and of Black descent. So our stories are very important. They help us connect with one another, explore reality and possibility, or escape from it, share knowledge and wisdom, make sense of our past and present, and shape our future. Our brains are hardwired to think, learn, and act most effectively through stories. Why sharing your story matters. Our stories are different from one person to another. Just because we come from the same community, the disability community, it does not mean that our stories are the same. While they might be similar, each one of us is very unique, and so is our story. So our stories highlight real lived experiences. Our stories open minds, and our stories can create change. Public speaking. It's really difficult sometimes to picture ourselves, if you haven't ever spoken in public before, as a public speaker. So the first question is, what do you talk about? And the answer is many things. You share your personal story. What were or are your struggles? How did you overcome those struggles? And what overcoming those triumphs mean to you? Maybe share who helped you get there or how you got there, what path you took. And share why your story is important to the community. How do I ask for what I need? So when people ask you to speak in public, sometimes it could be virtual, like we're gathered here today, or sometimes they would actually like you to travel to where they are at. This might include a plane ride or a train ride, a car ride, maybe a ride on paratransit, however you plan to get there. So we have to learn that asking what we need is essential for us to do our best and thrive in what we've been requested to do, which is tell our story and speak publicly. The first thing that we should do is make a list of what your needs are. Will you need language interpretation, American Sign Language interpretation, or CART services? Will you need to travel on a plane, train, or a bus? If you need to travel and you need to stay overnight, it's okay to ask for room and board for you and your care team, inclusive of the fees that your care team charges you. Asking for these things is difficult in the beginning, and I will definitely say that from experience. I often felt guilty for asking so much, but in hindsight, as people with disabilities, we are expected to exist and thrive in a community, in a society that is not built for people like us. So when people want us to come to them, it is most definitely okay to ask for what you need. How do I negotiate pay? Your story is worth so much, and so are your experiences. If you're new at public speaking, consider that starting at a base rate, maybe a couple of $100s, depending on if it's virtual or if it's within your city, and increase it as you gain more experience. If you receive many requests to speak, consider raising your fee. These are just a few things to think about when you negotiate pay. Also, it's okay to think about your experience, your educational experience. What did you have to do to get the knowledge that you're going to speak about today? Did you have to go to college and earn a degree? Did you have to go to a trade school and earn a trade certificate? What is it that you had to go through to be able to talk about yourself and your experience? Include all of that within your pay. If it's going to be an entire day that you need to be there and you're only speaking for 20 or 30 minutes, think about being there the entire day. Being a public speaker is a job, and you should be paid what you are worth. And finally, self-advocating equals advocating for all. While we are all very different as people with disabilities, it is very important for us to advocate for each other. This will result in power, fairness, and equity for the disability community, disability justice, and changing ableist thoughts and creating an anti-ableist environment for people like us. These are all very important reasons to share your story. Coming from my experience as city staff, I do a training once a month called Access and Inclusion Corner, where I speak to people and with people for 45 minutes once a month. I think the most powerful thing and important thing that we have as people with disabilities is our lived experience as people with disabilities. We are a creative community who, like I said before, is expected to thrive and adjust in a society that was not built for us. And those lived experiences definitely change minds. So I think the work that DVU does is amazing. I look forward to hearing some of you speak about your personal experiences and advocating for things that you're passionate about. Thank you so much for having me. I'll put my contact information in the chat if you'd like to ask any questions, and I will see you later on in the program, in the sessions.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was great. That was so many great little cheat sheets there. I was like, that's a good one. I think, did she leave?
No, I'm here. I'm
Oh,
still
you're
here.
there. Okay. Okay, your screen went away. Okay, great. Can I ask you one? I don't know how much time you have, but
No, I'm here till you need me.
oh, okay. I have a question. I don't know. People can put questions in there, but I have one. So in the last slide there, you talked about being able to advocate, you know, for disability awareness and anti-ableism and all that. How do you go out? How do you think, or what steps do you take personally to learn more about the different communities so that you can represent or at least share some insight and advocate for the community on a whole?
You know, I talk to a lot of people that I come in contact with. A big portion of my job is to make sure that our community has what they need to thrive. So asking people if they would prefer CART services, which is real-time captioning versus ASL, you know, also doing some research. I didn't know that the vast majority of the deaf/hard of hearing community use CART services and don't actually know ASL. So things like that are really important. Just as we as people with disabilities would like for people to ask us questions, that way we can share our experience, I ask people of the same. I always, of course, start with, you know, if you don't feel like sharing, I completely understand and respect that. But for the most part, I feel that people are willing to share their personal stories in exchange for what they need to thrive, especially in our society today.
That's a great tip. I think we all can benefit from that, remembering to ask people what kind of things they need. You know, that's a good one. I'm going to hold that one for sure. Feel free to write your questions in the chat here. Jennifer, what's the most unusual situation you've gotten into as far as advocacy goes? Like maybe something you see coming.
You know, I think when I come in contact with people without disabilities, or people without disabilities who also have not really had an experience with anyone from the disability community, I always find them surprised of the things that we have to face as a community just to exist in the day. So it's not that it was, you know, extraordinary, but I still find it very shocking that people aren't aware of the disability community, our culture, our needs, even our history. And these, as people with disabilities, it's important for us to know our history. So I share it as much as I possibly can and as often as I can to create a more inclusive world. You know, a long time ago, I was the first person in a wheelchair to ever perform on any Disney stage in the world at Disney California Adventure theme park, in Aladdin, a musical spectacular. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life as a performer. And it was also the most difficult, navigating a relationship as a creative with disability, with a big corporation, to talk about things like who's going to dress me. You know, this is very outside of what the work environment is, but as an entertainer, you know, you change clothes and wigs multiple times a day. You know, other people are there to help you wipe the sweat off your face after performing, or help you eat, or help me go to the restroom. So these are all things that I try to talk about, just to bring awareness.
Yeah, so see, there's just so many things that you don't think about that you would need someone to help you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Judy has a question. Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Jennifer. I'm Judy Mark. I'm president of Disability Voices United, and I'm a little bit fangirling here right now because I think I saw you in that Aladdin show 800 times.
Oh,
Because
yay.
my son has autism and is obsessed with Disneyland, and we would go during those days every couple of weeks, and we would always have to see you in the show.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm wondering, I just have a question, like actually getting to talk to you about this, is that during that time that you were performing, Disneyland actually pulled back its support of the disability community, in that they made it much harder for people with disabilities, particularly cognitive disabilities, like my son with autism, to be able to access the rides without waiting on like a 2-hour line. And I remember at the time, because I led the opposition against Disney for that in 2013. And I remember actually thinking about you, like I didn't know you, but I remember, well, you know, here they are making all this progress by having a person in a wheelchair in a stage show, which I know, having grown up with Disneyland, had never occurred. And yet at the same time, they're basically pushing the rest of us out the door and saying, you have to wait on the same lines, even when a person can't handle it. I'm just wondering if you, in that role, even heard about those things, you know, particularly for people with autism, people who can't communicate through traditional methods, if you heard about it at that time.
I was unaware of that. It was very, our day was packed, and we literally, if we were not on stage, we literally existed in a basement. So we were very kept away. I will say that they've come a long way. They're not where they need to be, but they've come a long way to be more inclusive of the guest population and the differences that population holds. So I'm really sorry that happened. That was terrible. And if had I known, I definitely would have been a voice for our community.
Yeah, it still exists, by the way. They changed the rules back in 2013 and never put them back. And it becomes harder and harder for people with disabilities, particularly people with cognitive disabilities, who don't understand how to wait in line, and how to wait in a line. So those rules still exist. They're actually worse at Disney World in Florida than they are in Disneyland in California.
Let's connect offline, and then we can definitely discuss this further.
Yeah, I would love to. Anyway, I don't know if there's other people in this call who face the same problems, but anyone in Southern California with autism knows that this was a big problem when it happened.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks, Jennifer.
No problem. Nice to meet you, Judy.
Tim, you got something?
Jennifer, you and I have spoken together many times in other events. You also bring up a great point about spending all day at an event after you speak. How do you handle that when you are always in the spotlight even after you speak?
I make sure I take a break. Yeah, I make sure when I ask for what I need, I don't have autism, but I do have really high anxiety. So I ask for a space where I can have as like a green room, whether it be a room that I share with maybe one or two other people, which is definitely fine with me, just somewhere where I can decompress, I can rest, I can use the restroom, I can eat, I can do what I need to do to go back out and be who I need to be and what I need to be for the people who've hired me for the day.
Yeah.
And asking for breaks
exactly
is
do the
totally
same
fine.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, asking for breaks is totally fine. If you're going to be there all day, you definitely need to make sure that you can have what you need to take care of yourself and your needs.
There's a question. I see you, Nina, but I have a question here. It's been waiting since 4:16. Jay would like to ask, Do you encounter some people that are supportive to your advocacy? How do you like, but I'd like to ask, do you encounter some persons that, that are not supportive to your advocacy? How do you deal with them?
It's very funny because people won't come outright and say, I don't support your advocacy. But when you work with people, sometimes
know who
your
they are.
body language and your face says all that someone else needs to know. So I just remind them very kindly that the disability community is one of, if not the only community that anybody can become a part of at any time in your life. You don't have to be born with a disability. You don't have to grow old into a disability. Unfortunately, people acquire illnesses and they get injured all the time. So at some point in your life, you're going to have a disability, whether it be something that changes permanently or temporarily, like if you break a leg or sprain an ankle or a wrist. Disability is a part of life that is inevitable. So when people wonder why I fight so hard for things, am I fighting for people who currently have disabilities? Absolutely. But I'm also fighting for the people who will have a disability, who aren't going to know how to navigate such a complex and inequitable system.
Yeah. Yeah, we can kind of tell who those people are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Nina.
Oh, Jennifer, that was like such a great presentation. I love this discussion. And could you please be the ADA coordinator for the state of California? Because this relates to my question, and I sort of can't even believe this came up. And I guess I just want some feedback as to how to approach it on behalf of all of us here. So yesterday at a brand newly formed it's a stakeholder advisory committee. This was convened as a result of statutory changes that happened last year to advise. This is advisory committee on regional center hearings. A lot of folks here are, served by regional centers. Anyway, in this first meeting, there was just this the issue came up of just highly restricting the use of chat. So one of our great DVU emerging leaders and often a participant here, they allowed him and him only to use the chat as a reasonable accommodation, like a whole big deal. And no one else could use the chat. And there were a lot of people in the public, in many other situations. I mean, in these days of Zoom, in just being able to meet and attend, whether it's a webinar format, often, it's a lot of people really feel much more comfortable using the chat function or at least a Q&A function and not have to, as they were requiring, like go through email, or it was just very cumbersome. And we got sort of nowhere, I think, explaining this. And I guess I was just wondering, just for kind of as assisting a sort of effective communication and the ease of communication for people, what would you do if you encountered like this restriction on the use of chat?
I think it's helpful to know what the ADA requires of governmental entities on communication. Providing somebody who can only use chat the chat is a reasonable accommodation. So there has to be some way for them to communicate. I would advise you to definitely, contact them and let them know your feedback and state the ADA states that you need to provide people with disabilities with reasonable accommodations. You can Google the ADA. Title II has everything that you need to know about effective communications for governmental entities. And just go from there. You will. I hate to be a pessimist about this, but we'll continue to receive pushback, and it is exhausting having to push forward, and it is very supremacist type of mind frame and situation where we have to continually fight and prove that we deserve access to basic things in life. But I think we just have to do it. Anytime that you can reach out to even the media about it, these are things, unfortunately, if nobody's going to listen to you and the media will, go that way. You know, somebody's going to hear you. And, you know, our community is strong. You know, the Gang of 19 laid their bodies outside of their wheelchairs and put down their canes and walkers and laid in front of running buses so that we could have access to public transportation. Capitol Crawl, hundreds of people with disabilities left their mobility devices at the bottom of the steps to crawl, literally crawl on their hands and knees up the Capitol stairs so they could speak to their legislators. And these are just the type of things that our community is still, I guess, being asked to do without being asked to do it directly. You know, if you're not going to give us what we need to band together. So if
Yeah.
there's, I put my information in the chat, Nina. So if there's,
Thank you.
if we need to talk offline about it more, I'm more than happy to assist you
Yeah.
with that.
Thank you for that. It was just sort of shocking because in a lot of situations, I think that there's just a lot less, it's more frictionless, you know, there's just these avenues of just giving people a chance to communicate in the way that's easiest for them. That should be the norm. And the idea that you have to go sort of all the way back to these basics that you're talking about, these critical basics, it's just, it's very jarring, but it's good to get re-energized about going back to basics if you have to, you know.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I see my colleague and fellow delegate online, Ryan Duncanwood. Hi, Ryan. Good to see you. And I know that Ryan and I, as members with disabilities of our state party, we go through this still all the time. And it's sad, but I feel like we need to just keep powering forward. And also remember that as an advocate, you deserve rest too. Advocating can be exhausting and physically harmful to our bodies as people with disabilities. Make sure you take time to rest. It's really important.
That's a good message too. I don't want to be ungrateful for your time. So recognize you said you're fine. So I'm going to let you advocate for yourself when you have to go. But I want you to know that Sabrina says, Jennifer, that is so cool, talking about your Disney stuff. Did you see another wheelchair user?
Yes.
Disney performer on TikTok said that seeing you in Aladdin pushed her to audition to her wheelchair.
Yes, I'm super excited that Kaylee, her name is Kaylee Bays, she's a dancer in a wheelchair. She'll be starring in the theme park's new mini musical called Rogers, which is about Captain America. So, you know, in the beginning, when I was young, when I got that, I was 22, that was over 20 years ago. I waited so long for somebody else to come along and be with me, you know, that having Kaylee make that huge, you know, huge achievement as a person in a wheelchair with a disability is a win for our community as a whole.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy to think that 22 years ago or 20 years ago, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yikes. We have to do better. William, there's lots of love going on in the chat here, but William says, is there a case that you know of where ADA has made a trained communication partner necessary for someone with autism who communicates using AAC? For like systems, so school districts and regional centers, they don't see a need. Like a lot of the individuals in this group, because of its augmented communication, have communication partners that need to be trained on how they communicate and how to support their communication.
Mm-hmm. Schools
and regional centers and anything affiliated with that don't recognize that need. Do you know of any ADA?
The only thing I know is that the ADA states that a companion is allowed to come along and help the person with a disability communicate, which I think is still, you know, I mean, I'm grateful for it and I don't mean to knock it, but I think the ADA as a whole is a bare minimum checklist, right? The ADA requires the bare minimum of the able-bodied society to implement for people with disabilities. I really think that AAC would definitely help people thrive in the community and make them feel more comfortable to participate in school or local government and so on. But that's all that I know about the ADA. The ADA will allow a companion to help you communicate on your behalf or communicate for you on your behalf.
Go, Tim.
While Tim is typing, though, I will share that the Citizens Advisory Commission on Disability in Long Beach Commission, our chair, her name is Kim, and she has cerebral palsy, and she uses a speech board to communicate. She runs meetings from her speech board, and she also oftentimes will come to City Hall and deliver public comment on important issues. And it's kind of really cool to see how the community as a whole embraces Kim, and it always, I think it's great. I think that we could use more of that everywhere in the world.
Yes.
Jennifer, you also star in a movie with Helen Hunt. Would you mind talking your experience on that, being on set?
You're so funny, Tim. Yes. I did a movie called The Sessions with Helen Hunt and John Hawkes. And it was awesome. It was very intimidating. They were very gracious. I had everything I needed to thrive from, I mean, I'm not a porta potty girl, but I mean, at least I had an accessible porta potty. And I had my own break room, and extra time to get out of my chair and stretch. So, and that was a really great experience as well. Tim, I feel like you're like my proud parent.
Do you, when you have to ask for that list of accommodations, of course, how is that usually received? Like, is there lots of conversation about these things, or do people?
Not with me, because I'm very clear. Like, these are not negotiable. Like, if you think about it, like, is it negotiable for an able-bodied person to ask for an accessible place to use the restroom? Absolutely not. Is it negotiable to give someone a chair to sit down to relax their feet? It's not. Therefore, I need a place to get out of my chair and rest my bum. You know, people who sit all day, our backsides feel like, you know, walking people's feet do at the end of the day. So just simply stating, you know, please see the list of my non-negotiable access needs. If you have any other questions other than what I need or how I need it, that's fine, but these are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And that's also us. I don't want to use the word force, but that's also us forcing the world to see exactly what it is that people with disabilities need to thrive, and also see how society doesn't provide these things without us asking. And even if we do ask, we still don't get it. So I always tell people to be true to who you are and to what you need. Be good to your body. Tell them what your body needs to feel comfort and to thrive.
Yeah, perfect. Looking here, and we have people asking for recommendations on technologies and psychiatrists and psychologists for the population of autism. Okay, so if anybody has anything that they can add there. Sheila, I see that you, I don't know if we'll talk about technology. Sheila's just asking about, I can throw it out there to people and to you, Jennifer, maybe. Let me find it, 1 second, I lost it. She needs help figuring out which products would be best for her reading and writing, dyslexia and portable and all that kind of thing. Where do you usually send people?
I usually send them to our independent living centers. Is everyone here from Southern California?
Or California,
Or
not
California?
Southwest.
Okay, so I would Google California Independent Living Centers and find the one nearest to you. They're set up to help assist you find what you need for everything from communication to finding a job, finding a caregiver, workforce development, and the list really goes on.
And that's the independent living centers.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Let me see if I can get that and I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. The Gilpier Groden family applauds you, Jennifer.
Thank you. You guys are so sweet. And if anyone has any questions they don't feel comfortable asking, my information is in the chat and I'll type it again.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Alana is asking what communication device program agencies are available for non-speaking nonverbal clients.
Still the independent living centers.
Yeah. And there, she just stuck in the chat there, the Independent Living Center name, and you can Google it and find one close to you. Sheila, okay. Yeah. Alvar says, Sheila will have to talk privately on all these little facets, but I'm happy to talk to you. Alvar says, hi, highly recommend the Voice Options AAC device program. If you haven't heard of it, Elena, they helped me get a new device for free. That's really awesome. Thanks, Alvar.
And I put my information in the chat, Darlene and Tim.
Perfect.
Please feel free to share that with anybody who requests it afterwards.
Yeah.
Is not able to catch it here.
So before we get off into other topics, what do you think? What's the pulse right now that you take on our community? And what do you think is the most important thing that we need to share and as a message and really work to get heard at this time?
During the pandemic, it was so funny how people all of a sudden figured out how to work remotely when that's what the disability community has been asking for since the dawn of time.
How many
And
times?
that's that we are crawling out, not out of, but I mean, COVID precautions have definitely become, there are no more COVID precautions other than wearing a mask if you're sick or stay home. People are now trying to get people to return back to work. And I think that the pulse is not just only of the disability community, but for our society as a whole, that people are happier when they can work at home, when they have access to things that they like, an accessible restroom, places to feed themselves, places to relieve themselves physically, getting in and out of mobility devices. Working from home works. And I think that's something that we have to keep reminding people. And also that, hiring people with disabilities is definitely a business move that you want to make if you own a company or if you're in charge of hiring talent. The disability community is dedicated. We're talented because we've been forced to adapt our whole life, and we want to work.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I was doing some chat things here. I think that that's a great point, because I think that people in general saw the Zoom life and the virtual life as an accommodation for having to stay home.
Mhm.
And so since we don't need that accommodation anymore, again, they're not thinking about the fact that it actually, it allowed us to include people who didn't always get to be included. So that's a great.
Yeah, thank you for that. There are people who are immunocompromised who are still going out with masks, and we need to respect that. The pandemic is not over.
If I have to speak more than 20 minutes, I let them know that I need to take a break after 20 minutes, and they can figure out how to arrange that for me by having another speaker during my break or letting the audience know ahead of time that we are taking a break. This is one thing that I don't back down in my accommodation.
Yeah, our needs are non-negotiable.
Yeah. I know, William, you can share your story about the scheduling needs that you have, maybe, or I can share for you, but I don't want to step on your feet here. About how you have to advocate for your scheduling needs. I think we all have needs, right, that we have to advocate for.
Absolutely.
Anybody can put in there things that they find themselves having to remind people they need to in the chat.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, Tim, because as a singer, I think people think that you could sing all day, no problem. But I purposely and strategically ask other people to sing with me. Or if I'm speaking, I show a slideshow of some sort. That way I can take a break, because it's a lot. It's a lot. Mentally and physically.
Something weird just happened for me and I could only hear it in Spanish.
Me too, Darlene. 1 second.
Ed,
Yeah, hold on 1 second. It should be fixed. Thank you, Ernest.
okay. Thanks. Let me make sure I'm right now. Okay. Sorry about that. Thanks. Okay, so I don't know what you said, Jennifer. That you just were talking about. You probably don't remember either.
When I perform, I strategically ask other people to perform with me. That way I can take a break. And if I'm speaking, I will play a slideshow of some sort, maybe that's a minute or two long. That'll give me that time that I need to rest for a little bit, even if it's just a minute or so. But, you know, again, it's always important to remember that our needs are non-negotiable.
Yeah. I'm thinking William's typing here. I liked how you pointed out, because this was something I had to learn as a speaker, that if you're intended to be there and invited to be there for the whole day, like for a conference, you're to be there for the whole day, but you're only speaking for 20 minutes, you're still there for the whole day. They hired you for the whole day.
Yep.
So it's weird, and it feels weird to say it's going to cost this much money, but you need to think in terms of, I just gave up my whole day. That's the value, right?
And not just that, Darlene, I gave up my whole day. I need to make sure my caregivers get paid for the duration of a full day. Things like that. So I completely agree with you. If you're going to be asked to stay there the whole day, think about what your pay is for a whole day. And if you're having problems, and if you have a job, start at what do you make a day in your job? And if you don't have a job, reach out to other members of this awesome group. Reach out to Tim or Darlene and talk about it. Sometimes it's helpful to talk things out.
And how do you factor in your care providers' costs?
My caregivers, well, first of all, I'd like to start off by saying that caregivers don't get paid as much as they deserve for the amazing job and hard work that they do. So my caregivers, the state, they get paid through the state, and they make $17 an hour. So when I advocate for anything from $20 to $25 an hour. Yeah, but that is definitely an issue within the disability community that we're advocating for now, is better pay for care providers, because people are qualified for X amount of hours and not able to use them because nobody wants a job that they can't make a living wage on, that they're asked to work hard physically.
Yeah.
And I see in the chat, William typed something in the chat, Darlene.
Yeah, this was, let me see, where did that go? There you go. So William wrote and talking about his needs, and he advocates that the schedule ahead of time and making sure I don't have a long wait before presenting is important for my health. Sound checks should be the day before, not at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
If you're a person who takes you have a process to get ready to go out and start your day. If the session starts at 8, that means you're going to get up at 4. And that's not reasonable, right? So other people might not think of it that way. So you need to speak up and say, I can't do those early morning slots, or whatever your story is, right? Yeah.
Because it's I I don't do 7 a.m. either, William. I'm not a morning person. And I have a feeling that if I didn't have a disability, I still wouldn't be a morning person. But yes, I prefer to be prepared, that everybody be prepared so that we all can be successful. You know, it's not about just me, it's about the sound people, it's about the stage people. It's about everybody working together efficiently and successfully to make the event be what it needs to be.
Yes. Kathy writes, Jennifer, oh, Tim, do you have a question?
I want to ask you, for those of you who aren't disabled, like Judy, Nina, and Darlene, how do you set your rates? To speaks because the hardest part of an advocate is to set your rates. Because it's always hard to ask for more because of the stigma that society has on our community.
Well, that's a good question. So for me, I factor in the time that I'm there, right? That's my rate, my hourly rate. And then I also though factor in how much prep time I have to do. Because I don't just walk in and start talking, right? I've prepared ahead of time. If I'm gonna have to spend the night somewhere, it's gonna be more money. Because now I'm factor, even though, and you have to pay for my accommodations as well. But if I have to spend the night somewhere, it's gonna be more because I've now taken 2 days, really, right? I'm not real good about asking people to pay for the travel day. I know I should, but I always feel weird about that amount. But but sometimes I do it, and sometimes people will say, shouldn't you get paid for your travel days? But technically I should, right? And so it's just, I always feel weird about it. But the point is, I guess there's always something that you feel weird about charging people for, I think. But we shouldn't. It's then I hear people saying, oh, that guest speaker costs $5,000 a day. And I'm like, what? I didn't charge $5,000 a day. So people do it. So there's no reason why we can't do what we need to do too. Kathy wrote, Jennifer, to you, how do you navigate the medical arena? Are you taken seriously when working with your practitioner? Our doctor does not address our son when in a doctor's appointment. The doctors are in the dark ages when dealing with someone with autism.
I agree. I think that the medical industry needs a class in like not just disability etiquette, but bedside etiquette. Like it's just so crazy. I go to the doctor alone and it's so weird to me. I'm 43. It's so weird to me to ask, did you come here alone? Do you ask everybody if they came here alone? And I am not one to really hold my tongue. So and I know this is horrible, but I think it's because I have 4 brothers that I'm this way. But I said, I literally will ask the question back and I'll say, did you ask, the last patient if anyone came with her? Well, no. And I said, well, why? And one doctor said, because she doesn't have a disability. I said, doc, you need to realize that people with disabilities are perfectly okay thriving on their own. And even if they have someone with them, you should be talking to them. And it's so weird to see that come to like an aha moment to a doctor. I'm like, I don't call people dude, but sometimes I'm like, dude, get it together. If you want people to address your son, you can ask my son. You can ask my son. You can ask my child. You can ask my daughter. You can ask, the person that you're caring for. And simply say, I'm here for support. Yes, but you can ask. They're the patient. You should be asking them. And I think that's the only real way that we could get any change in the medical arena. And the medical arena is so scary and so daunting for people like us, because it's the one place that you think that we would be understood the most. And it's actually the worst. So, I mean, I hope that helps. I hope that helps.
That's a good point. You would think that it would be a safe space, but it's doesn't appear to be. You're right.
Yeah. Have any of you seen the documentary on Netflix? It's also on YouTube for free called Crip Camp. You can nod your head or use your, yes, there was a part in that movie where one of the people was speaking about how she, went to the doctor, she was having these issues, and she, how old is everybody here? Darlene? You have
All
adults and
ages.
children? All ages, okay.
All ages,
So,
yep.
I think, it was just baffling. Netflix called Crip Camp, yes. It was baffling to the doctor that she was there because the only way that she could get that sick was from, kissing someone else. And, she said, like, who would ever kiss me? But we're desirable too. And we have value as people. We deserve all things love. We deserve all things relationships. And I think doctors forget that the most. We have jobs, we're parents, we're children, we're employees. The list goes on. We're everything. And I have about a couple more minutes, Darlene.
Okay, great. I'm looking through here. Oh, Tim's got something.
Regarding staffing, I charge a lot when I speak to factor in the cost for my staff because they are working also when I'm speaking. My staff are my shadow, and they are also my communication partners, and they are working also at the conference more than I am with different situations.
Agreed.
Ryan says he's in Crip Camp, and I saw you in there, Ryan.
I think I knew,
Oh, there
Ryan.
is Ryan.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Ryan, are you going to convention? Yes. I think you're on mute, but if you want to type in the chat. Yes, I'll see you there.
Well,
So,
Jennifer, it was so great to have you with us today. I mean, this has been so much fun. And I can't wait for you to come back to the Self-Advocacy Speakers Bureau training in July. It's going to be great. So please, everyone, if you want to get involved in this if you're a self-advocate and you want to get involved in the training, connect with us at DBU. The applications are open until May 26th. And then you too can see Jennifer again one more time. But thank you, Jennifer. It's been great.
thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
You too. Okay, well, that was awesome. I'm looking at the chat here, seeing what else we've got going on here. William, there's a request for you to do some work here in there somewhere. Make sure you see that. Who's doing webinars, Deva? You said they're doing webinars. But
A little further up, she says there is a group of MDs against ableism out of Stanford. I think that might be who she's
oh,
referring to.
okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Ed. Okay, well, that is good to know. We should get connected with them. Are you connected with them, Deva?
I just been following them recently. So I'll send you the link.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Lots of thank yous to Jennifer in here. So if you are a self-advocate, to register for the self-advocacy workshop, you would use the link. I see the link in there for the med stuff. Thank you. that Tim put in here, we can put that in again for the Self-Advocacy Speakers Bureau. If you are a parent or a family member of a self-advocate, then that we have a different training that you might want to get involved in the future, which is the Emerging Leaders Program. And Gilda could, that means you just have to follow on our website to learn more about that. There's Judy's just put the self-advocate one in there. So, okay, let's see. Alvar wrote in here.
Darlene, should we talk about some of the topics for the Self-Advocate Speakers Bureau?
Yes, we will. Let me do, Alvar wrote something in here. I want to read what he wrote. He said it's in terms of medical stuff. I normally have a lot of trouble getting doctors to listen to me rather than talking to whoever is with me. But weirdly enough, when I ended up in the ER last month with COVID, the ER doctor said he didn't want to talk to my helper who was trying to advocate for me. And he initially said he wasn't going to serve me unless I verbally, not using AAC, told him what was wrong. Oh my God. I saw that going somewhere else, Alvar, and then it went bam, took a left turn. Jeez. Wow. Well, that's not right. So a lot of you who signed up for the Self-Advocacy Bureau so far have talked about the medical profession. So I think it's going to be a big topic as Tim's talking about our topics. I think this is going to be a big one because it seems to be on everybody's mind. There, Gilda put her contact information if you're a family member of a self-advocate and you want to get involved. Bernadette said, Amy said, would love to do this again. Bernadette says it's horrible for you, Alvar. Kathy says, so would we go to an ombudsman prior to an appointment to educate the doctors? Yeah, I guess you could. I mean, it's a systemic problem. So yeah, but one-on-one, that would be something to do, right? Melody says, any law publications that we can print out and bring with us. There, we do have information. I don't have it at the tip of my fingertips, but we do have information through supported decision-making that applies to this conversation, I think. Would you agree, Judy, if you're here still? Nina, what do you think? To use some of the paperwork and things that
Oh, yeah. Oh, so supported decision-making is, and we have so many resources on that on the web, on our website. And as Ed could probably also elaborate on this, but supported decision-making, I think, is one of the key ways of addressing, or getting help in interacting with the healthcare system. I mean, I think a lot of the examples are, and a lot, like you said, Darlene, a lot of the documents are geared to giving you that kind of help. And that, I'm so sorry, Alvar, that situation is outrageous, but there are resources that can help at least say, anticipate if you face that, you can have it thought through and say, I have a supported decision-making arrangement. This is my supporter, and I delegate them to speak on, for and with me, whatever your situation might be. But I think supported decision-making is one of the best resources for interacting with the health, medical community.
Yeah, even if it doesn't apply directly to your life, it's organized in a way that supports you to advocate for yourself, right? Sheila, did you want to say something? I don't see, you're not on my screen, but you're in the chat here, so I don't know where you are, Sheila, I'm sorry. I'm not
Sheila,
sure.
I've asked you to, okay, go ahead.
Yes, it was on that one that you read about, let me see if I find it. The one that you read out loud.
Okay.
About the the medical treatment, going to doctors.
Mhm.
I had also responded to that post. I don't get treated right, and they see all my diagnosis and they see that I have mental medications. So when they see that, I can never get hurt because I'm mental. So it's all in my head. So I can never injure my leg, my arm, nothing, because I make it up in my head.
Mm.
And then I had a worker that used to go to some appointments with me, and because I have a hard time speaking when I get nervous, she would help get it out. And she was like, she can answer you, ask her, she's the patient. And the doctor would say, she's not human, you answer the questions. And I've had a few doctors and even teachers and cops say, I'm not human.
Wow. That's not
And
right.
yeah, and with all the bullying in life, that just shuts me down, and then I stay locked up in my home. And
Yeah. I'm sorry that happened. Yeah.
then everybody, why don't you talk?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah. So,
Okay. And I'm 47 years. I'll be 47. And I just got an ACC machine. And keep fighting insurance. They keep taking away the person that's supposed to put words on,
mhm.
and they just took it away. Said
Yeah.
we're not paying.
Wow.
I got approved, and then taken away again. Now they set me up with a person that I can't. I already told them we don't work good.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to work with you because I've talked to you before.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't take my insurance.
Yeah. So Sheila, Amy says, hi, I have a disability too, and some people don't believe I have a disability. And she wanted to send you hugs and let you know that we are here for you. And Frankie says, oh my God, that is beyond disbelief. I'm so sorry to hear that you experienced such mistreatment. You are beautiful. And Kitty said, I'm so sorry that happened to you. People can be so mean. And Jay said, that's not right. This is heartbreaking. And Mayora wants to know, can I be a part of the circle of support for you, Sheila? Where do you live? So people here are for you, Sheila. Okay. You're obviously a strong person.
And clearly the interaction with the healthcare community is going to be a big topic for the Speakers Bureau. And I'm sure that, you know, we'll be talking about it for forever. I mean, I think it just impacts everybody so much. And Sheila, you're, you know, it's a terrible example, but you're giving, you're helping everybody by just, you know, everybody has their own version of experiencing something like this. And it's, you know, you're not alone. And it's a topic that's just so incredibly important. And as I was thinking about what we were talking, what you had raised before, Darlene, about supported decision-making and other resources. And I would say one of the things that we learned at DVU and in our DVU, in our COVID pages, that we had to assemble because people had very, very acute healthcare needs that just came up suddenly. And so we assembled a lot of resources. And one of the most effective things that we found was something called, it's a form. And if you do think about it ahead of time, it's very, very helpful. And it's called a healthcare passport. And it's a way of thinking through some of the issues and where you've had issues. Have that with you at all times. I have a son with autism who immediately managed to break his arm and need a big surgery, like right after the lockdown. And I thought, it could have gone so badly, but I got people to pay attention to that document. So it just came to my mind, and I just wanted to pass that on. But thank you for sharing, Sheila, and, for this whole conversation.
Yeah. And Deva reminds you to look into the Independent Living Center and see if they can help you if you haven't seen them already. Kathy reminds us that there's a paradigm shift on the minds of doctors. If the doctors don't change their way of thinking, how do we get insurance companies to pay for needs that families so desperately need? Yes. We often in DVU, we talk about that it's not set up to give people the extra time that they need, to give them the support that they need. The insurance companies are the ones calling the shots a lot of the time on that. So yes, this is a lot of work to be done. We need lots of you guys to be self-advocates for the medical community, and then we'll go flood them with new information. And then also, Sheila, just to know, Brandon said, just hearing your story opened my eyes tremendously. Thank you so much. So look, you've already made a difference. Alvar says, in case it's helpful, here's a link to the free AAC device program. That's the one, I think we talked about it, Sheila, but look in the link here in the chat and you can pull out that system if you didn't already get yours. Deva says, I always go to the doctor with my questions written down. That's a good idea too. What's the link for the conference again? Do you mean this the Speakers Bureau, Amy? We can put that in there. Okay, we'll put that in again before we close off for sure. Okay, so what Tim wants us to talk about, what are we going to talk about in the Speakers Bureau? We're going to be talking about your elevator pitch, right? How you get your speech together. But it's not just going to be like, how do you write it? You have to write it, of course, but it's also how to refine it, how to customize it based on the audience that you're going to be speaking to, right? So we really want people to get comfortable with that. And then we want people to get comfortable with the listening part, which is why I liked when Jennifer talked about the fact that she spends a lot of her time just listening. But listening to the audience that you're presenting to and being able to field those questions and make those new points. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about understanding your audience. So if you're talking to medical professionals, understanding them and their point of view and how you're going to get in there and really hit them hard without them knowing about it. And if your audience is the city council, then that's going to be a different audience, right? You're going to speak differently to them. Education, you're going to talk to the educators in a different way. So helping people understand and figure out and research how and who do we speak with. And we're going to talk a little bit about social media, using social media. And we're going to practice a lot. so that we can get comfortable with each other. It's 3 days, 3 sessions of an hour and a half each, and then the 4th day is in person, if you can make the 4th day, for those that are participating. And on the 4th day, we'll be practicing in person. We have, so there'll be live, like, feedback to each other. It'll be very fun and productive. Those 4th day sessions will be held throughout the state. So if you live in Southern California, you'd go to the Southern California session. If you live in Central California, you'd go to the Central California session. If you live in Northern California, you'd go to the Northern California session. So DVU will travel doing the exact same 4th day session in different communities, and you join the one in your community. So that's going to be a lot of fun. The idea is that once you go through this training, then you can, if you say, okay, I'm in, right? I want to help DVU spread the word, change the narrative. Then we will be filling out or creating a profile page and putting that into, we'll have a next step, which is a website where people will have their profile pages listed, and individuals, hopefully doctors and their groups, can hire somebody in our group to tell them a little bit more about what it means to have a patient with a disability in their office, and what they could be doing to accommodate, or a city council person. So everybody will get to kind of share what their area of interest is and expertise is. And we can go around spreading the word that way. So that'll be the website part. So it's training and then a website, joining the website opportunity. So this is for.
This is more than just a speaker's bureau. We want to change the ways on how society sees the disabled community, changing the narrative and empowering our voice to all kinds of sectors in our population that we are human too.
That's going to be the big theme. That's the theme. So that's, let's see, now I'm looking at the chat here, seeing what else is coming up. So Frankie, the training is for self-advocates. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Judy. Oh, Kathy writes, we have to get DOR that funds the voice options to add AppleCare to the device. Oh, that's a good point. Good point, Kathy. And Sheila says human, yes. And Kitty says that was well said. Yeah. So these are the kind of things that are coming up with these aha moments for ourselves, and sharing them with everybody that we talk to is how we change the narrative, right? We can't just keep talking to ourselves. We have to talk to other people about needs and expectations, like William always says, expectations. That's where the conversation needs to be going towards. It can't just be us talking to ourselves. So we're really excited that we're getting to start this finally. It's been on our list of things to do for a few years. Amy, that's a good question. Is it virtual or, yeah, the first 3 sessions are virtual. They start June 14th. They go every other week for 3 weeks. And we meet for an hour and a half on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. The 4th day is in your community, whichever community you live in. We have the 3 sites that we'll be at. And there's going to be homework. It's not like a big deal homework, but homework, we expect people to prepare and review and come to each session, because we can't cover everything that we need to cover in the session in an hour and a half, that's for sure. I'm looking to see if there's any questions. We had some questions that we were thinking of as we were preparing for this conversation, and I think we already talked about barriers, right? Has anybody else in this group on here, have you guys talked about pay or thought about pay for yourself? do you have any apprehensions of talking about pay, or do you think, yeah, I'm going for it? Anybody think about that?
What?
Tim, do you have something? Okay, Sarah says, I want to get paid for public speaking. All right. Have you tried to do that yet, Sarah? I don't have Sarah on my screen, so I don't know. Deva says, in academia, we don't get paid, just expenses. Well, that's something to consider if you're going to go for your PhD and be in academia. Sarah says, yes, I have been paid for keynote addresses. Okay. Perfect. Are you comfortable letting people know that you want to get paid? Or is it weird for you? It's weird for me still. It was supposed to be good for your career. It's good for your career to present, huh? In academia. I see some people typing. Or what kind of things have made it uncomfortable for you? If you are someone who has presented, or consider when did you feel uncomfortable about setting up your contract or communicating with those that you needed to communicate with? Okay, so Amy, you're in North County, San Diego. Okay, so you would go to the Southern California full day workshop if you were to join the Speakers Bureau training. Albert said, I would have trouble asking to be paid, I think. I always advocate for people I always advocate for paying marginalized people for their labor, but it would be hard for me to ask for myself to be paid. Yeah, and I think, okay, bye, Ryan. I think that that's kind of normal. But you have to wrap yourself, like Jennifer was saying, you have an expertise and an experience and an insight that not everybody has. And that's what people get paid to speak about. And so if other people are getting paid to speak about it, there's no reason why you shouldn't get paid to speak about it, right? If you're going to prepare yourself, do whatever research and editing, have somebody program it for you in your device, whatever you need to do. If you're going to do all of that, that's what people pay you to do. So you have to kind of remind yourself of that, and know that you're paying someone to help you, right? So that you should get paid to do what you're doing. And you maybe even have to pay for your helpers. Sometimes that happens. Carrie says, I would like to help disabled children again, like in the past. Yeah. Do you want to help them as a job or in advocacy, Carrie? Both. Okay. So in education or regional center, that might be where your advocacy goes, right? Yeah. Perfect. Frankie says, our time is valuable. We have experience, knowledge, and expertise. People are always being paid as motivation speakers, exactly. So we should not be shy or hold back on asking to be paid, right? And people can say no, they don't have a budget. You know, sometimes people say that, and then you get to decide whether or not you want to do the speaking. But you'll be surprised the number of people who just go, okay, and then pay you. I'm looking to see if anybody else is typing anything in here. I don't see anybody else typing. Tim, you want to add anything before we end here? Nina, William? Oh, here. Alvar says, knowing that I want other disabled people to be paid for speaking would help me to ask to be paid myself, because if I would do it for free, then places might think it's okay not to pay people. Exactly. I use my desire to be a good advocate to encourage me to do uncomfortable things, whether that is asking for needed accommodations or potentially getting paid in the future. Exactly. You're on the right track, Alvar. You know, there's another thing that professionals do, and you guys would be professionals advocates, right? So if unless you're other professions too, you might be. But as a professional, you want to know what other people who do the same job charge. A lot of it because, like you're saying, Alvar, you don't want them to think that you're like, sometimes people, if you don't charge them, they don't think you're very good just because you're not charging them. There are those people who think they kind of go with what does that person charge as how well they're respected as a professional in their field, whatever their field might be, and yours would be advocacy. So kind of it is useful to know what other people get paid in your field at your level of expertise. You know, if you're a new person, of course, that makes a difference. But the other thing is that professionals who speak for a certain rate, they actually don't like it when people come in and charge less, because it starts making them look like they're I mean, it's a careful dance. But don't sell yourself short. Yeah, go Tim.
I just got approached to speak to a very large technology company, and the first thing that they asked me how much I charge because they already seen me present before. Do not hesitate to ask how much. We need to break the stereotypes that people with disabilities are always volunteering.
Yes, that's right. They're breaking that stereotype. You guys don't need to always be volunteering.
But I agree with you, Darlene, that it is really hard. It's hard to even think about, especially where, but I do think that's such a great point about, you know, you weigh the circumstances in a given request, like a brand new, maybe starter organization that has no, you want to help them launch. They don't have the kind of resources to be able to do it. So I just think there are things, nothing is cut and dry, but I think definitely the direction of that you're sharing your story, exactly what Jennifer said, that is so valuable, that is professional, that is expertise, that is, that you can put a price on. But I guess from my own angsting about a lot of it, or my own anxieties about it, I can see there are situations where you weigh the specifics, so.
Yeah. I had to hire people to have that conversation for me because I was terrible.
I do too. They're called my shrinks, but
mine was my personal assistants, but yeah, or make a rate sheet. We'll talk about this in the group, but you make a rate sheet. So then you just say, I would just say, I'll just send you my rate sheet. And then my rate sheet did the talking for me, right? I didn't have to. That was kind of helpful for me. William says the conferences should include registration for you and staff and not make them pay. Yeah. Don't let them make you pay. Yeah.
In-kind service also goes a long ways because you get more opportunities later.
Tim, can you do that one more time, please?
In-kind service also goes a long ways because you get more opportunities later.
That's something else to consider. In-kind service means you're doing it like a, not a payback, but you're doing one thing, they're doing something, you're working together, helping each other out. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, that does help. Carrie says, I totally agree because we work longer and harder to be prepared for speaking. Right. Yeah. It all matters. Okay, we have 5 minutes and then we have to sign off. I want to thank Lorna and Ernest for putting up with us today and being very patient with especially our cross-talking and our lack of preparedness for you. I'm so sorry, but thank you. That we always appreciate you guys. And next month, I don't know what we're going to talk about yet next month. I'm feeling like we need to talk about medical. That's what I'm feeling like. So let us do a little research on how we could set that up for ourselves here. But I wrote down a few comments that I'm thinking, oh, we need a session on that, on assistive technology. That would be a good another one. So let us figure out which one we're going to do and stay tuned. Tim, are you saying something, Tim? No? Okay. All right. I think we will let you all go. It's been great. Thank you all so much for speaking and participating today and listening, and hopefully got some inspiration. We will see you next month in June on the 20th. The 20th, yes, June 20th. I'll be out of town, but I'll zoom in, literally. All right, thank you. Bye.